We have a Prime Minister that admires a foreign dictatorship, such as the People's Party of China. And now we hear that potentially, if the stories are true in the Globe and Mail, and I know that the government likes to dismiss them as false, but it is very scary what has been discovered. And that's it, that the People's Party of China influenced the last 2 elections here in Canada. And what's worse, the Prime Minister knew about this. This is our democracy. This is what should decide the people that come to this room to determine the direction of our country. And it's the influence of foreign actors that I am deeply concerned about.
Beijing's communist agents engaged in a sophisticated strategy of manipulation and disinformation to wage a ground war on our democracy and on our elections. That's not me saying it. That's on the front page of the Globe and Mail. They report a Conservative MP was targeted for daring to champion to establish a foreign agent registry to plug a national security hole. This government's broken, hasn't done anything. Did the Prime Minister turn a blind eye to foreign interference because he stood to gain from it politically?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Absolutely not, Mr. Speaker. Our government has been clear from the beginning that foreign interference is a serious threat to this country. It's precisely why we've taken action. The Conservatives seem to only wake up to this fact when they think it's politically advantageous. Meanwhile, on this side of the House, we have put in place measures like the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, a site committee, the Critical Election Preparedness Committee. Mr. Speaker, we will work to improve our democratic institutions and secure them while Conservatives play politics.
Nice job. Honourable Member for Calgary-Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, the people playing politics is Beijing and its communist agents in Canada, while this government does nothing about it. It knows and it doesn't tell Canadians that there's been serious accounts of foreign interference. The Globe and Mail reports a CSIS source of direct interference, including illegal donations, communist agents directing volunteers, a Beijing embassy official taking credit for the defeat of 2 Conservative MPs, and the Prime Minister has said in Parliament the task force determined that the integrity of our elections was not compromised in 2019 or 2021. CSIS says the opposite. So who is telling the truth, the Prime Minister or CSIS?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
And Conservatives, it was actually our government who closed financing loopholes that their Unfair Elections Act actually kept left wide open for foreign interference. Mr. Speaker, in addition to that, let's remind Canadians what CSIS and our national security community has said. They have said that there was no activity that compromised the integrity of our elections. So, Mr. Speaker, let me ask, are the Conservatives going to work with us to continue to strengthen our institutions, or are they continue to do China's bidding and undermine the trust in our democratic institutions?
L'honorable député de Mégantic-L'Érable.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the Prime Minister said last November that Canadians can be reassured that the integrity of our elections was protected. He was talking about the 2019-2021 elections today in the Globe and Mail. It's not the Conservatives saying it. The Globe and Mail has brought forward troubling facts. Agents of the communist regime are working actively to promote the election of a Liberal minority government, and they did that in 2021. They are leading misinformation campaigns against Conservative campaigns, and it goes on. Did the Prime Minister close his eyes deliberately on this because it led to an advantage for him? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Conservatives were paying attention back when we took office. We were putting in place measures to strengthen our democracy. Conservatives only seem to be awake to issues of foreign interference when it seems politically advantageous. But, Mr. Speaker, this is precisely why we have been saying time and time again that the threat of foreign interference is persistent, it's ongoing, it's why we need to continually be addressing this. Mr. Speaker, I urge the Conservatives to actually work together with solutions instead of working with China to undermine the trust in our democracy.
The Honourable Member. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable.
Solving it, Mr. Speaker. Les tactiques que parle le rapport du CSIS.
The tactics in CSIS report included donations to political campaigns and getting business owners to hire students to do volunteer work for campaigns. Donors sympathetic to the regime are encouraged to provide contributions to candidates favored by China. The Prime Minister knew during the last election that the Chinese Communist regime was involved in misinformation, especially in 2 ridings. The Prime Minister stated to the House of Commons that the integrity of our elections had not been undermined in 2019 and 2021, but CSIS's report shows the opposite. Who is telling the truth?
Of emergency preparedness.
Speaker, the member opposite, I'd just like to take an opportunity to refresh his memory. On December 18th in 2020, I wrote that member a letter, and every member in this House, advising them about the threat of foreign interference, and particularly the threat that China represented to our political integrity. That information was shared with every member of this House, and bringing it to your attention. As well, we articulated the steps that this government was taking to protect our democratic institutions. Mr. Speaker, this government has been alive and alert to that threat and has taken action to protect our institutions.
Mr. Speaker, the Globe and Mail has revealed the scope of China's interference in the 2021 federal election. The Secret Services detailed an entire campaign with illegal election funding and media manipulation. It's very concerning, but it would be a mistake to make this a partisan issue and question the election's legitimacy. The real problem is the facility with which foreign powers could manipulate our elections. We need to take action with transparency, but instead, for months, the government has been denying everything and hiding the truth. Will this government finally take the threat seriously? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I welcome the Bloc's intervention today and the willingness to work with us on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, the pervasiveness of foreign interference is serious. It's why we've taken action, but there is more work to be done. It should not be a partisan issue. Every single Canadian should want everyone in this House to take this issue seriously. And Mr. Speaker, some of the loopholes we've closed were things like foreign campaign funding, tighter rules on third-party advertising. These are some of the loopholes used around the world. We're going to continue to work with all parliamentarians to address this.
The Deputy de Trois-Rivières.
The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, China's election interference is a threat to democracy, and neither partisanship nor denial will help us to beat it. We must all ensure that our elections are safe from foreign manipulation. But this government is hiding the truth from the public. Not only was it aware, but it discussed the issue with allied countries. It knows that candidates received illegal funding. And it knows which candidates. It even reimbursed those sums. When will it understand that we cannot beat Chinese interference by being just as opaque as China?
Ministre des Affaires intergouvernementales.
Mr. Speaker, of course we know that foreign interference exists. This is what we've been talking about since we've been in office. It's precisely why we have put forward several measures to strengthen our democracy, our democratic institutions, and ensuring that our elections are free and fair. Mr. Speaker, foreign interference happens to countries around the world. We work with our partners and our allies on how we can counter it, and I encourage all members of this House to bring forward solutions instead of behaving recklessly like the Conservatives who use national security as a partisan issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I am not challenging the authority of your chair, but you are correct in saying that how this ties into the Republic of China is that they're influencing our elections, and this bill is about stopping the influence of countries like that in our economy. That is the connection. It is clear as day. What the member across the way is distracting, that this is somehow wrong to talk about the influence that this country has had on 2 elections. 11 candidates received illegal donations. We've yet to find out who are these individuals. Who is protecting those 11 individuals? What are they hiding? We know it's coming from a country that we have concerns with, and that's what this bill is trying to stop the undue influence on our economy. And there's reports out today that they went one step further. We know that the People's Republic of China is influencing other countries through economic purchases of their economy. They just bypassed that all and just bought a government with illegal donations, hiring people to work in elections, and then sending those volunteers off to work on liberal-friendly campaigns. That's the reports that are in the Globe and Mail that are so troubling, is that it goes to the root of why are we here? Why does this all matter? We are supposed to be making choices for the benefit of this country, not for a foreign country that is, for the time being, in bed with one of the parties in Canada.